young boy who came regularly to football practice but never made it to the A team. While he was practicing, his father would sit at the far end of the field, waiting for him. For 4 days, the boy didn't show up for practice. The matches had begun and his team was playing the finals. He showed up for the finals and went up to the coach and said, "Coach, you have always kept me in the reverses, reserves, and never let me play in the matches. But today, please let me play." The coach said, "Son, I'm sorry, I can't let you play. There are better players than you, and besides, it is the finals. The reputation of the school is at stake, and I cannot take a chance." The boy pleaded, "Coach, I promise I will not let you down. Please let me play." The coach had never seen the boy plead like this before. He said, "Okay, son, go play. But remember, I am going to against my better judgment and the reputation of the school is at stake. Don't let me down." The game started and the boy played like a bull on fire. Every time he got the ball, he shot a goal. Needless to say, he was the star of the game and his team won. When the game finished, the coach went up to him and said, "Son, how could I have been so wrong in my life? I have never seen you play like this before, and I don't think you played like this before either. What happened? How did you play this way today?" The boy replied, "Coach, my father is watching me today." The coach turned around and looked at the place where the boy's father used to sit. There was only an empty bench. He said, "Son, your father used to sit there when you came for practice, but I don't see anyone there today." The boy replied, "Coach, there is something I never told you. My father was blind just 4 days ago. He died. Today is the first day he is watching me from above." What motivated the boy? It was his belief. Internal motivation is the inner gratification, not for success or winning, but for the fulfillment that comes from having done something. It is a feeling of accomplishment rather than just achieving a goal. Reaching an unworthy goal does not produce a gratifying feeling. Internal motivation is lasting because it comes from within and translates into self motivation. Motivation needs to be identified and constantly strengthened to succeed. Write down your goals, keep them in front of you, and read them morning and evening. Internal motivation comes from within. Some of the important internal motivators are a sense of responsibility, accountability, ownership, pride in performance, etc. Appreciation has been considered to be a great motivator. Why is that? Because it makes a person feel good. When they feel good, their self esteem goes up. When their self esteem goes up, they feel motivated. It is external because it originates from outside, though its manifestations feelings are internal to the receiver. Pride in performance is an internal motivator. At the end of the day, the person feels good because he has done a great job. Even if no one appreciates, he still feels good. In contrast, if a person does not do a good job, even if you appreciate them, they still don't feel good. Our objective really is to inculcate internal motivators. Responsibility is internal as it originates from within. Responsibility comes from a sense of belonging and ownership. Take the case of Jill, a customer service representative who had been on the job for 6 years, a relatively long time in a job that had a high turnover rate. Jill liked her job. She liked talking with customers and being a problem solver. What she didn't like was the fact that most of the other customer service reps who had been Their less than 2 years were on equal footing with her. Jill was frustrated and discouraged that many of the other reps were not willing to listen to her suggestions. When they did have a problem, they'd go to the manager for help, even though the manager didn't have the front line experience that Jill did. The manager began to notice that while Jill's performances wasn't bad, it wasn't as good as it had been, and Jill no longer seemed to be happy with her job. Not wanting to lose such a valuable employee, the manager gave Jill a raise, but Jill's attitude about the job did not change. While more money is always nice, what Jill was looking for was respect. When the manager finally spent some time talking with Jill and discovered the source of her dissatisfaction, the manager gave Jill the title of supervisor and told the other reps that all problems were to go through Jill. Jill's increased responsibility fueled her need for respect, and her performance immediately improved. Monetary rewards are temporary and short lived. They are not gratifying in the long run. In contrast, seeing an idea being implemented can be emotionally gratifying by itself. People feel that they are not being treated like objects. They feel part of a worthwhile team. The reward of doing the right thing is motivating by itself. We are all motivated either positively or negatively. Everyone is motivated, including the person who wants to do nothing. He is motivated to do nothing. When I was in Tornado, I heard a story of two brothers. One was a drug addict and a drunkard who frequently beat up his family. The other was a very successful businessman who was respected in society and had a wonderful family. How could two brothers raised by the same parents, brought up in the same environment, be so different? The first brother was asked, "What makes you do what you do? You are a drug addict, a drunk, and you beat your family. Where do you get your motivation from?" He said, "My father." He was asked, "What about your father?" He said, "My father was a drug addict, a drunk, and he beat his family. What do you expect me to be? That is what I am." The second brother was asked, "How come you are doing everything right? Where do you get your motivation from?" And guess what he said? "My father. When I was a little boy, I used to see my dad drunk and doing all the wrong things. I made up my mind that that is not what I wanted to be." Both brothers derived their motivation from the same source, but one was using it positively and the other negatively. Negative motivation brings the desire to take the easier way, which ends up being the tougher way. On the job, the four stages from motivation to demotivation. When people start a job, they often move through stages of motivation and competence. Motivated, ineffective. When is an employee most motivated in the cycle of employment? When he joins an organization. Why? Because he wants to prove that by hiring him, the employer made the right decision. He is motivated but ineffective. Why? Because he does not know what to do. This is the stage when the employee is most open minded, receptive, and easy to mold to the culture of the organization. Training and orientation become imperative. Unprofessional organizations either have none or very poor orientation programs. The first day at the job, the supervisor shows the new employee his place of work and tells him what to do and leaves. He teaches all the bad along with the good that he is doing. The new employee quickly learns all the mistakes the supervisor is making because that is what he has been taught by not having a good induction orientation program. The organization loses the one time opportunity to mold the individual to be effective in a positive manner. Professional organizations, on the other hand, take special care to induct people into their organizations. They explain to them, among other things, the following: their values and vision, expectations of each other, parameters and guidelines, the resources, the hierarchy, do's and don'ts, what is acceptable and what is not. How can one expect performance unless expectations are made clear upfront? If induction and orientation are done well, many potential problems would know what to do and does it with drive and energy. He has learned the trade and it reflects in his performance, then he moves on to the next stage. Demotivated effective. After some time the motivation level starts going down and the employee learns to tricks of the trade. This is the stage when the employee is not really motivated but continues doing just enough so that the employer has no reason to fire him. This stage is detrimental to growth. Most people in organizations fall into this third stage. His performance is marginal. He makes fun of the good performers. He is not receptive to new ideas and resists change. Our objective is to bring him back to the second stage of being motivated, effective through some good training and or incentive programs. An employee ought not to stay in the third stage too long. Why? Because they are insiders. They start sabotaging the company. It is not uncommon that many organizations get destroyed because of sabotage from inside rather than competition from outside. They start spreading the negativity all around and demoralizing others. From here, either they are brought back to the second stage, which is being motivated and effective, or they automatically move into the fourth stage, which is demotivated and ineffective. Demotivated, ineffective. At this stage, the employer does not have much choice but to fire the employee, which may be the most appropriate thing to do anyway. Remember, Remember, employers want the same thing as employees do. They want to succeed and improve business, and if employees help in this objective, then they make themselves valuable and grow. Demotivating factors. Why do people get demotivated? Two major reasons: negative thinking or negative environment. Negative thinking could relate to the individual, whereas a negative environment can be further divided into two, either physical or emotional. Example: physical could be phone does not work, computers don't work, nothing works, how do I work? Emotional could be people related matters. Some of the other demotivating factors are lack of training, unfair, negative public criticism, rewarding the non-performers, which can be demotivating for the performers, failure or fear of failure, playing favorites, nepotism, success, which leads to complacence, lack of measurable objectives, lack of appreciation or feeling of belonging, too much or too little work, low self esteem, lack of priorities, negative self talk, hostile environment, office politics, unfair treatment, poor standards, lack of quality consciousness, too much change too fast, responsibility without authority, too much job security, insecurity, hypocritical or incompetent supervisor, lack of clarity of roles and calls, lack of challenges, or a feeling of being underutilized. The above is only a partial list. There are some factors which are such. that not having them could be demotivating, but having them may not necessarily be motivating. Example: one of my clients did not have a cafeteria at his facility. Everybody kept complaining and felt demotivated because of that reason. My client organized to put one in place to overcome the reason for demotivation. Interestingly, the motivation or demotivation level didn't change. What does it show? Not having was demotivating, but having didn't motivate the people either. The repetitive nature of work is demotivating. It is a common belief that the repetitive nature of work is demotivating. Is it really so? I don't think so. What brings demotivation is not the repetitive nature of work, but feeling of being underutilized and lack of challenge. Example: a mother cooks meals for her family for 50, 60 years and is still motivated to cook and feed the family with the same enthusiasm. Why? Because she never feels underutilized and she always wants to outperform herself and make a more delicious meal for her family. In fact, every time she cooks, she is motivated. A person who has no aspiration and is contented with his status quo may not really be a motivated person. Such satisfaction may lead to complacence. Motivation brings excitement, and excitement does not come unless there is commitment. Whenever we think of motivation, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Give them money, they will get motivated. At least for some time they will get motivated, but so long as you have demotivating factors present in your organization, you can give all the money you want and they will take it too. They'll never refuse your money, but even after taking your money they will still be demotivated. Hence, many a times the greatest motivator is to remove the demotivating factors. Motivators. What we really want to accomplish is self motivation. When people do things for their own reasons and not yours, that becomes lasting motivation. Remember, the greatest motivator is belief. We have to inculcate in ourselves the belief that we are responsible for our actions and behavior. When people accept responsibility, everything improves: quality, productivity, relationships, and teamwork. A few steps to inspire others to motivate themselves are: give recognition, make work interesting, give respect, be a good listener, encourage, encourage goal setting, provide training through a challenge, help but don't do for others what they should do for themselves, provide opportunities for growth. Conclusion: people do things for their own reasons, not yours. This is illustrated by a story about Ralph Waldo Emerson. He and his son were once struggling to get a calf into the barn. Both father and son were exhausted, pulling and pushing. A little girl was passing by. She put her little finger into the calf's mouth, allowing it to suck, and the calf lovingly followed her to the barn. Self-esteem. Identify positive and negative behaviors. Every time we do something good, we rise a little bit in our own eyes, and the reverse is just as true. A beggar was sitting at a train station with a bowl full of pencils. A young executive passed by and dropped $1 into the bowl, but didn't take any pencils. He then boarded the train, but just before the doors closed, the executive suddenly just left the train and went back to the baker. He grabbed a bunch of pencils and said, "I will take some pencils. They are priced right. After all, you are a business person and so am I." And he dashed back onto the train. 6 months later, the executive attended a party. The baker was also there, dressed in a suit and tie. The baker recognized the executive. went up to him and said, you probably don't recognize me, but I remember you. He then narrated the incident that had happened 6 months before. The executive said, now that you remind me, I do recall that you were begging. What are you doing here in a suit and tie? The baker replied, you probably don't know what you did for me that day. You are the first person in my life who insists, instead of giving me charity, gave me back my dignity when you grabbed a bunch of pencils and said, they are priced right. After all, you are a business person and so am I. After you left, I started thinking to myself, what am I doing here? Why am I begging? I decided to do something constructive with my life. I packed my bag, started working, and here I am. I just want to thank you for giving me my dignity back. That incident changed my life. What changed in the baker's life? What changed was that his self-esteem went up and so did his performance. That is the magic of self-esteem. Self-esteem is the way we feel about ourselves. When we feel good, the world looks nice, productivity goes up, and relationships are a lot better. The reverse is just as true. Self-image is the way we see ourselves. Our opinion of ourselves critically influences everything in every walk of life. High self-esteem is driven by self-acceptance and self-worth, whereas low self-esteem is driven by fear and self-doubt. Self-esteem comes from recognizing and accepting your self-worth. Acceptance of self-worth makes a person feel secure internally. They feel anchored, they are at peace with themselves and are poised. They are internally driven because they get their validations from inside. They don't have to prove anything to anyone. Internal validation does not mean being egoistic. It means I accept myself the way I am, with my pluses and minuses, with my pluses and minuses. I'm at peace with myself. If it does not mean that I'm proud of my mistakes or I'm complacent or I do not want to change. It only means I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I learn from them. I'm not proud of them. I won't repeat them. But I'm not a mistake. This brings self acceptance, establishes self worth, and gets rid of self doubt. Self esteem is a major component in determining success or failure. High self esteem leads to a happy, gratifying, and purposeful life. Unless you perceive yourself as worthy, you cannot have high self esteem. All great world leaders and teachers throughout history have concluded that one must be internally driven in order to be a success. We transfer our unconscious self-appraisal to others and they respond to us accordingly. People with high self-esteem grow in conviction, competence and willingness to accept responsibility. They face life with optimism, have better relationships and more fulfilling lives. They are motivated and ambitious. They are more sensitive. The performance and risk taking ability go up. They are open to new opportunities and challenges. They give and receive constructive criticism and sincere compliments with ease. Self-esteem is our self-concept. There is a story about a farmer who planted pumpkins on his land for no reason. He put a small pumpkin hanging by the vine into a glass jar. At harvest time, he saw that the pumpkin he had put into the jar had grown, equivalent only to the shape and size of the jar, while the other pumpkins grew to their full potential. Just as the pumpkin could not go beyond the boundaries restricting, restricting it, you cannot perform beyond the boundaries of your self-concept, whatever those boundaries may be. Some advantages of high self esteem. There is a direct relationship between people's feelings and their behavior. Some of the advantages of high self-esteem are gives confidence without arrogance, creates willingness to accept responsibility, builds optimistic attitudes, leads to better relationships and fulfilling lives, makes a person self-motivated and ambitious, makes a person open to new opportunities and challenges, improves performance and increases risk-taking ability, makes a person trustworthy, makes a person more dependable and reliable, makes a person more protective everywhere, makes a person feel secure. Low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is driven by fear and self-doubt. How do we recognize low self-esteem? What are the behavior patterns of a person with low self-esteem? The answers to all these questions are overlapping and similar. The following is a brief list of behavior patterns of a person with low self-esteem. It is not all inclusive, but is indicative. There are neither good leaders nor good followers. Reason because they are willing to compromise values for ulterior motives anytime. You cannot trust them. They are gossip mongers. They constantly criticize and are critical in nature. They get sadistic pleasure out of criticizing others. They are unwilling to accept constructive criticism. When given constructive criticism, they become either defensive or offensive. It is very difficult for them to say, I'm sorry, or apologize for their mistake. Why? Because it hurts their ego. They are very conceited. Conceited people are highly egoistic and arrogant. They think they know it all. Such people talk down to others. They put down others, and every decision they make is more to satisfy ego than make sense. It raises a question that why does a human being put down another human being? It is sadistic but true. There are some people in the world who feel good when the other person feels bad. They feel superior when the other person feels inferior. Egoistic people are very self-centered and often can be rude, discourteous, ill-mannered, inconsiderate, and selfish. They are very hypocritical in nature. They put on a false mask. They pretend to be what they are not. They have a dual personality. They become sycophants to the world and many times oppressive to their own families. Why? Because they are the only ones who will take it. They massage other people's ego and they like others to massage their ego. They show timid behavior when they go to their bosses and oppressive behavior to their juniors. They are very touchy in nature. They have a very fragile ego. Anything you say, they take it personally and get hurt. Everything becomes a prestige issue to them. Many times, people confuse being sensitive to being touchy. Being sensitive is positive, whereas being touchy is negative. Being sensitive shows a person is caring. They are arrogant, closed-minded, and self-centered. They constantly make excuses, always justifying their non-performance and failures. They never accept responsibility. They are always blaming others. They become fatalistic in nature. They take no initiative and always wait for things to happen. They are bored and uncomfortable when alone. They have a breakdown in decency. People with low self-esteem don't know where to draw the line. Where decency stops and vulgarity starts. It is not unusual for people to tell jokes at social get get-togethers, but with every drink that goes down the bed, the jokes get dirtier and dirtier, and they don't know where decency stops and vulgarity begins. They don't have genuine friends because they are not genuine themselves. They compromise values for ulterior motives. They manipulate people by making false promises for selfish reasons. It is not unusual to see the employees, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, buyers, sellers lying to each other. When a person makes a sale by telling lies and does not keep his commitment, what happens to his credibility? It is lost. Their behavior is inconsistent and erratic. They swing from one end of the pendulum to another. They may be all sugar and honey today, but the same people may be out to cut your throat tomorrow. They are unbalanced. People with low self-esteem are generally difficult to work with, and work for. They tear down others to get a feeling of superiority. They become introverts, hence isolated and withdrawn. They are indecisive, vacillating, and non-committal in nature. They lack stick ability. They decide change. They are fence sitters, never knowing which side they will have to run. Hence, they are non-committal. They have negative expectations of themselves and others and are seldom disappointed. They exhibit over submissive or timid behavior. They constantly keep apologizing even for their existence. Example, you notice there are some people who start their sentences with an apology. Please forgive me. For what? For a mistake coming in the future and advance. There is a difference between timidity and humility. Humility comes out of confidence without arrogance, whereas timidity is self-put down, which reflects lack of confidence. They constantly keep looking for validation and approval from others. While working with others, they constantly keep seeking approval for every negative thing. Constant approval seeking shows lack of confidence, whereas consultation is possible. They brag about themselves. It gives them a false sense of achievement and fulfillment. They lack assertiveness. What is assertiveness? Assertiveness means that when a person feels strongly enough for something, then he takes a stand firmly but politely. Assertiveness means firmness with politeness. The moment you take politeness out of firmness, it becomes aggressiveness. They become bullies. Low self-esteem is reflected in aggressive and oppressive behavior. They indulge in oppressive or intimidating behavior. Why do they do it? They get a false sense of security. This is called pseudo self-esteem. They manipulate others for ulterior motives. They are suspicious in nature. They have pessimistic behavior. They have comforting behavior. What does that mean? Many times we notice people doing something wrong, knowing fully well that it is wrong. You ask them, why are you doing this? Their answer is, I don't know. Everybody else is doing it. That's why I'm doing it. Knowing well what they are doing is wrong, they still go along to get along. Why? Because their group gives them an identity. They have no identity of their own. They are looking for acceptance and validation from outside because they lack self-confidence. They try to keep up with the Joneses when people buy houses, cars, and other possessions and participate in activities to impress others. They often spend money they haven't earned and buy things they don't need or like. All of this is an attempt to impress others whom they don't even necessarily like or admire. They exhibit attention seeking or non conforming behavior. In order to gain attention, people with poor self esteem might do senseless things just to stand out and be noticed. They get a kick and a sense of importance from perversion. Some people choose to do wrong and do wrong just to be different and gain attention. Examples are people who brag excessively, the bullies, clowns, people who dress outrageously, and so forth. Attention seeking Seeking behavior is visible more so today than earlier because of a new breed of people called now being rich. What is rich are a breed of people who have made new money. What is wrong with new money? Nothing wrong. But rich is never taken as a compliment. They have made money alright, but values don't exist and somehow rich person's behavior is telling the world, look at me, I've arrived. You can't afford to avoid me anymore. They are looking for validation. They are indecisive and do not accept responsibility. Lack of courage and fear of criticism lead to indecisive behavior. They become rebellious against authority. I make a distinction between rebelling out of the courage of one's convictions and rebelling because of poor self-esteem. All the great world leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Abraham Lincoln were rebels. They rebelled against authority out of the courage of their convictions. A person with low self-esteem rebels against authority just because it is authority, even when the authority is right. They lack a sense of direction and have a non-caring attitude. They have a hard time giving or receiving compliments. In giving, they feel they might be mistrusted, constituted, and in receiving, they feel they are undeserving. Feeling unworthy is not humility, it shows lack of self-worth. They place too much emphasis on material things. People with low self-esteem judge your worth by your possessions, not by who you are. They look at what kind of car you drive, what kind of home you live in, and what kind of clothes and jewelry you wear. They judge your self-worth by your net worth. They forget that people look things things don't need people. People with low self-esteem place more emphasis on net worth than self-worth. Their lives revolve around heads and heads. Many times you hear people saying, I don't wear anything unless it's designer. Designer labels are their status symbols. Why? Because the labels give them identity. Take away their possessions and they will die or shame. They will die or shame. They get into a red race of one-upmanship. As Lily Tomlin said, the problem with the red race is that even if you win, you are still away. They don't take it. They don't take any pride in their performance. Their work is always either incomplete or faulty or shabby. Don't take any pride in their appearance. They are uncouth, shabby, untidy. There is a flip side. There are some people who are so conscious of their appearance that they are always overdecked in three-piece suit, permanently ready to get married anytime. Their thinking is you never know who you are going to meet on the way to war. There are some physical manifestations of appearance, such as droopy shoulders, avoiding eye contact, shifty eyes, flimsy handshakes, etc. People with low People with low self-esteem are very unforgiving in nature. They permanently hold grudges against others. There are times when a person makes an honest mistake and they realize it and then apologize for it. People with high self-esteem would accept the apology and go forward with a clean slate. Whereas for a person with low self-esteem, it is very difficult to accept the apology. They continue holding a grudge. They are very argumentative in nature. It doesn't matter which side you are on. They are permanently on the other side. In order to feel good, they always have to score a point over you. They lack empathy and compassion. They are sympathy seekers and they indulge in self-pity. What is self-pity? Self-pity is a victim complex. What is a victim complex? Why did God have to do this to me and not to somebody else? They are suspicious and jealous in nature. To the jealous, their own problems don't bother them as much as other people's successes do, which means they don't want to lift themselves up, but they want to pull others down. They have an escapist attitude. Escapist behavior comes in two ways. They procrastinate. They keep postponing things because they don't have the courage to face up to the consequences. Hence, they keep postponing. The more they postpone, the higher the price tag. Escapist behavior comes in other forms and they become self-abusing. They become alcoholics, chain smokers, drug addicts, etc. If you ask why are you doing all this, they will say, I am drowning my sorrow in the bottle. Question is, are alcoholism, smoking and drug addiction good self-abuse? If you respected yourself, would you abuse yourself? The above is a partial list of low self-esteem behavior which results from insecurity due to impact our relationship and productivity. The objective of this list is to provide a basis for self-evaluation, not to produce guilt. Does a person have to have all of the above behaviors? Probably most of us have a little bit of all of the above. Negative behaviors in varying degrees. Our objective is to identify and get rid of them. Could people with low and high self-esteem have similar behaviors? The answer is yes. Example, a person with low self-esteem can be an introvert and so can the person with high self-esteem, but they are both driven with different motivations. A person with low self-esteem becomes an introvert because they are uncomfortable with people, whereas a person with high self-esteem becomes an introvert out of choice. This is the difference between loneliness and solitude. A person with low self-esteem is suffering from loneliness even when he is amongst large groups of people, whereas a person with high self-esteem is enjoying solitude out of choice. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. Solitude is the place of being alone. A person with high self-esteem is really saying, I enjoy my company. I may be physically alone, but I am with myself. Here are some comparison characteristics of people with high and low self-esteem. High self-esteem talk, talk about ideas, talk about people, caring attitude, critical attitude, humility, arrogance, respects authority, rebels against authority, courage and conviction, goals alone to get confidence, confusion, consent about character, consent about reputation, assertive, aggressive, accept responsibility, blames the whole world. Self-interest, selfish, optimistic, fatalistic, interested, understanding, ready, willing to learn, know-it-all, sensitive, touchy, solitude, lonely, discuss, argue, believes in self-worth, believes innate right only, guided, misguided, disciplined, distorted sense of freedom, internally driven, externally driven, respects others, looks down on others, enjoys decency, enjoys neutrality, knows limit, everything goes, never take it. Why put on a mask? A young executive with poor self-esteem was promoted but he couldn't reclaim himself because no office in position. There was a note at his door to show how important and busy he was. He picked up the phone and then asked the visitor to come in. As the man waited for the executive kept talking on the phone, nodding and saying, No problem, I can handle that. After a few minutes, he hung up and asked the visitor what he could do for him. The man replied, Sir, I am here to come into your phone. What is the message? Why pretend? What are you trying to prove? What do you want to accomplish? Why do you need to lie? While look for feelings of false importance, all of these types of behavior come from insecurity and low self-esteem. By pretend, our character can be judged by everything we do or like. Our character is revealed by the company we keep or avoid, how we treat others, especially our subordinates, the elderly and the disabled, the books we read, the music we listen, the movies we watch, the kind of jokes we tell or laugh at. Every action of ours gives us away. Anyway, so why pretend? Self-esteem, positive or negative, can be revealed by the following: positive self-esteem, negative self-esteem, self-respect, self-put-down, self-confidence, self-doubt, self-worth, self-abuse, self-acceptance, self-denial, self-love, self-centeredness, self-knowledge, self-deceit, self-discipline, self-indulgence. High self-esteem does not mean having a big ego. In fact, the reverse is true. Unless a person is at peace with himself, he cannot be at peace with others, just as we cannot give to others what we don't have. Unless we possess the components of high self-esteem, we cannot share it with others. We need to first evaluate honestly and put ourselves in order. Even in an aircraft, the safety instructions tell you to put on your oxygen mask first before helping your child. This is not selfishness. We need to be strong both physically and emotionally. Steps on buildings, steps on building high self-esteem, foundation to succeed. Just like a passport is a prerequisite to travel the world, similarly, a high self-esteem is a prerequisite to live a meaningful life confidently. In order to build a high self-esteem, we need to first identify what are the causes of low self-esteem. Causes of low self-esteem. We start forming our self-esteem, positive or negative, from the day we are born. We develop feelings about ourselves that are reinforced by others. Negative self-talk, negative conversations. Negative self-talk is when we say to ourselves, consciously or unconsciously, statements such as I have poor memory, I'm not an athlete, I'm not good at math, I'm tired. Such statements only reinforce the negative by conditioning the subconscious mind adversely and pull us down. Very soon our minds start believing these statements and our behavior changes accordingly. They become self-fulfilling prophecies. Environment. Home. The greatest gift a parent can give his children are rules. The best part of a family tree is the rules. Noticing a little girl's courteous and polite behavior, a teacher asked, who taught you to be so courteous and polite? The girl replied, no one, but just hands in our family. Expensive jewels are not real gifts. They may be only apologies for gifts that we never gave them. Many times we buy gifts for people who compensate for not spending enough time with them. Your gifts are when you give a part of yourself. Upbringing, fellow citizens, why do you turn and scrape every stone to gather wealth and take so little care of your children to whom one day you must relinquish it all? In order for our children to turn out well, we need to spend twice the time and half the money. It is less painful to learn English than to be ignorant as adults. Parents with high self-esteem inculcate confidence and high self-esteem in their children by giving them positive beliefs and values. The reverse is also true. It is a great heritage to have honest parents. Parents who participate in truth tales unfortunately set bad examples for their future generation. A strong role model or mentor could be a parent, relative, or or teacher who is held in high regard. During their formative years, children look up to their parents and teachers as authority figure. Even as adults, we look to our supervisors and managers as role model. Little eyes upon you. There are little eyes upon you and they are watching night and day. There are little ears. There are little ears that quickly taking every word you say. There are little hands all eager to do anything little, and a little boy who is dreaming of the day he'll be like you. You are the little fellows I wrote. You are the wisest of the wise, and this little note about you, unconscious ever rise. People never send you devotee, calls all that you say and do. He will say and do your way when he is grown up like you. There's a wide-eyed little fellow who believes you are always right, and his eyes are always open, and he watches day and night. You are setting an example every day, and all you do for the little boy who is watching to grow up to be like you. What makes a child delinquent? Teach him to put a price tag on everything and he will put his integrity first. Teach him never to take a stand and then he will fall for anything. Make him believe that winning is not everything. That is the only thing and he will make every effort to win by hook or by crook. Give a child everything he wants right from infancy and he will grow up believing that the world owes him a little and everything will be handed to him on a platter. When he picks up bad language, laugh at him. This will make him think he is good. Don't ever give him any moral or ethical values. Wait until he is 21 and let him determine his own. Give him choices without direction. Never teach him that every choice has a consequence. Never tell him he is wrong. He might even act twice. This will condition him to believe that society is against him when he gets arrested for doing something wrong. Always pick up things that he is lying around, books, shoes, clothes, and so on. Do everything for him so that he will learn to push all responsibilities onto others. Let him read, watch, and hear anything he wants. Be careful what he feeds his body, but let his mind feed on garbage. In order to be popular with his peers, he must go alone to get along even when he knows what they are doing is wrong. Quarrel frequently when he is present. This way he won't be surprised when things fall apart at home. Give him as much money as he wants. Never teach him respect for the value of money. Make sure he does not have things as tough as you do. Provide instant gratification for all sensory desires such as food, drink, and comfort. Deprivation can cause frustration. Side with him against neighbors and teachers as they are prejudiced against him. When he gets into real trouble, excuse yourself by saying, I tried my best but could never do anything with him. Don't put your foot down because you believe the school takes away freedom. Prefer remote control to parental control in order to teach independence, building self-confidence. A young couple used to leave their daughter at a daycare center every day before going to work. As they parted company, the parents and child kissed each other's hands and then put the kisses in their pockets all during day. When the little girl got lonely, she would take out the kiss and put it on her cheek. This little routine made them feel together even though they were physically apart. What a wonderful thought education. Being ignorant is not shameful, but being unwilling to learn is. Role models can teach through example. Children who are taught the importance of integrity during their formative years generally don't lose it. It becomes a part of life, which is what we are looking for in any professional, whether a contractor, a teacher, attorney, accountant, politician, police officer, or judge. Integrity is a lot stronger than honesty. In fact, it is the foundation of honesty. Youth are impressionable when they see their mentors, such as parents, teachers, or political leaders, treating with pride or breaking about petty dishonesty, such as stealing a towel in a hotel or cutlery from the restaurants the following happened. They are disappointed, they lose respect for their mentors, constant exposure breeds acceptance in them. Poor role models. A school teacher asked a little boy what his father did for a living. The boy replied, I'm not sure, but I guess he makes pens, pencils, light bulbs, toilet paper rolls because that is what he brings home every day in his lunchbox. Making unfair comparison. Another cause of low self-esteem is unfair comparisons. Unfair comparisons are not okay because they make a person feel inferior and their self-esteem goes down. Fair comparisons are okay. Many times parents make unfair comparisons amongst siblings. How come your brother is a doctor and you are not? How come your sister is an accountant and you are not? The question is, do I have to be? That's unfair. Now, what is fair? If you studied as hard as your brother or sister, you could do just as well or even better. I consider this I consider this as a fair comparison because you are not questioning the ability of the other person. People with high self esteem don't compete with others. Instead, they improve their own performance. They compete against themselves. They compare their performance against their capabilities or past performance. Failure or success, a ripple effect. There is a lot of truth in this statement. Success breeds success and failure breeds failure. When a person fails, their self esteem goes down. When self esteem is low, it is easy to fail again. When they fail, self esteem goes down further, and so on and on. In sports, we can see that whenever the champion's morals is low, and it does get low at some point, the coach will never put him against a good fighter because if he suffers one more defeat, his self-esteem will go down even further. To bring his self-confidence back, the coach puts him against a weak opponent, and that victory raises his self-esteem. A slightly stronger opponent is next, and that victory brings up the level of confidence even further and on until the day comes when the champion is ready to face the ultimate challenge. With every success, self-confidence goes up and it is easier to succeed the next time. For this reason, any good leader, be it a parent, teacher, or supervisor, would start a child off with easy tasks. Add to that positive strokes and encouragement, and this will start solidifying positive self-esteem. Our responsibility is to help break the failure chain and move into the success chain. Confusing failing with failure. Success is 99% failure. When people fail in any particular event, most get so disheartened that they start looking at themselves as failures, not realizing that failing does not equal failure. I might have failed, but that does not mean that I am failing. I might have been fooled, but that does not mean I am a fraud. And realistic expectations of perfection. A child comes home with a report card with 5 S and 1 B. Usually the first thing his parents will say is, why the B? We think the child tried for the B. What is going through the child's mind? What happened to my 5 B's? Does that mean that the parents should accept the B? If you accept the B today, what will you get tomorrow? C's, D's, and C's. We should never lower our standards. How would a responsible parent handle this situation? They would say to the child, you've got 5 As, your job next time be all says. What the child is really looking for is acknowledgement and encouragement for the effort in getting the progress. Similarly, at work, an employee can do 100 things right and one thing wrong. They support the boss with acknowledge the positive, but don't lower your standards by accepting substandard performance. Lack of discipline. What is discipline? Discipline does not mean punishment after a wrong is done. Is it imposition? Does it take away freedom? The answer is none of the above. Discipline does not mean that a person takes off his bed and beats up others. That is madness. Discipline is loving firmness. It is direction. It is prevention before a problem arises. It is a take off run on. It is harnessing and channeling energy for others, but something you do for those you care about. Discipline is an act of love. Sometimes we have to be unkind to be kind. Not all medicines are sweet, not all surgery is painless, but we have to take them. We need to love from nature. We are all familiar with that big animal, the giraffe. The mother giraffe gives birth to a baby giraffe standing. All of a sudden, the baby falls on a hard surface from the cushion of his mother's onto the ground. The first thing the mother does is to get behind the baby and give it a hard kick. The baby gets up, but the legs are weak and wobbly. The baby falls down. The mother goes behind the baby again and gives one more kick. The baby gets up but falls down again. The mother giraffe keeps kicking till the baby is able to get on its feet. Why? Because she knows that the only chance of survival for the baby is to get on its feet. Otherwise, it will be eaten by our predators. My question to you is this an act of love? You bet it is. Children grow up in a loving, disciplined environment. When they grow up and respecting their own parents, more and become law-abiding citizens. The reverse is just as true. If discipline were practiced in every home, juvenile parents are not afraid to enforce discipline because of momentary mistakes or children. Discipline gives freedom. Freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired but controlling the desire. There is a misconception that freedom means doing your own thing. One cannot always have what one desires. Many times it is not easy to comprehend that the benefits of good values and discipline. It may even seem it may even seem more profitable, enjoyable, and convenient to do otherwise. All we need to do is see countless instances where lack of discipline has prevented people from succeeding. Rather than the restraints of discipline pulling us down, discipline is really taking us up. That is what discipline is all about.